clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, Akhilesh.
Thank you. On behalf of Indore Management Association, it is my privilege to welcome you all on the 57th Foundation Day. Since 1963, Indore Management Association is a premier management association of the country and with many feathers to its cap. The latest being the award as the best management association in the country, and we have got this award 3 times consecutively in last 3 years, and in all 13 awards since this award has been initiated. On the Foundation Day, we remember and we salute and pay our respects to all those who have contributed immensely in building up of an organization from a very humble beginning. Today, it stands tall with various activities like International Management Conclave, Women Conclave, Startup Conclave, various kind of training programs on campus, off campus, in industries, and in lockdown also we have conducted 40 webinars online apart from various training programs. On looking back, lots and lots of members, institutions, organizations have contributed in building up of IMA. When we look at the foundation, one of the strong pillars, one of the strong supporter of the foundation is the Tata Group. The Tata Group has supported IMA with Tan, Man and Dhan. And in the past, we also had the privilege of conferring the Lifetime Achievement Award to Mr. Ratan Tata and to Ms. Simone Tata. Apart from, if I start making a list of what all Tata Group has contributed, it will be a very long list, but I would like to mention a few names who have come specially to Indore Management Association and have addressed the gatherings at the International Management Conclave and at various other occasions. To mention a few names, Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan, Mr. J.J. Irani, Mr. Ishat Hussain, Mr. R. Ramadurai, Mr. Kishore Chaukar, Mr. Ravi Kant, Mr. Bhaskar Bhatt, Mr. H.M. Nerurkar, Mr. H.M. Srinivas, Mr. Ashutosh Pandey, Mr. Subodh Bhargav, Mr. Homi R. Khusro Khan, Mr. Satish Pradhan, Mr. Pankaj Balika, Mr. T.V. Narendran, Mr. Sunil Bhaskaran, and today we are honored to have a veteran Tata Group Padma Bhushan, Mr. Syamal Gupta as our chief guest, and Mr. Gopalakrishnan presiding the Foundation Day celebrations. I would also like to welcome Dr. N. Mohan, former Global Head Leather Products in the Tata Group and currently the MD of Clark's Footwear for the Indian subcontinent. Just to mention, Mr. Mohan is also a board member of Indore Management Association, and Mr. Mohan has facilitated this program. I would like to also welcome a very warm welcome to senior Tata members who are present today in this program with us to benefit from the words of wisdom of Mr. Syamal Gupta. We also have Dr. Himanshu Rai, who will speak about the book, and he is the director of IIM Indore, and it's a matter of chance that he is also an ex-Tata. He also worked with Tata Steel for, I think, 8 long years. And with this, I request Mr. Mohan to take the proceedings forward. And once again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Akhilesh ji, and Mr. Ravi Mohan, Chairman IMA, Mr. Goel Saab, and also the esteemed colleagues of the IMA board and the executive committee members and team IMA. Firstly, a big thank you for organizing this event. On the 57th foundation of IMA, I would like to congratulate you, Akhilesh ji, and the entire IMA team for winning the IMA's LMA award for the year 2019-20. If I remember correctly, this is the 13th time IMA is being awarded. Indore, as a city, is very close to my heart, and over the years, I have seen this city set benchmarks for others to follow, be it as the cleanest city in India for the 4th time in a row, or IMA winning the LMA awards. The IMA platform has been an enriching experience for me, and the energy of the team IMA always fascinated me. So congratulations to all of you for setting and maintaining very high standards. Now on to our honorable guest of this day. Thank you, Mr. Gupta, and thank you, Mr. Gopalakrishnan, for taking time out to join this IMA Foundation Day function. Sir, we are honored by your presence. I am sure the entire management fraternity of the Central India will benefit from your pearls of wisdom today. Thank you, sir. I have been associated with Mr. Gupta for more than 3 decades. During my stint at Tata Exports, I have been fortunate enough to get global exposure and an enriching experience under his leadership. Mr. Gupta's book, Quintessentially Tata, is an exemplary guide for businesses aspiring to make a global mark. Having read the book, I could relate to everything he said about the leather business and various other businesses. Tata Exports leather business is an iconic business and has put Devas, a Budlet Nowhere city, on the leather industry world map. This project is an example of how, with perseverance and pioneering spirit of a team, all negatives can be defied. Some of the challenges some of the challenges they overcame were the things like not being closer to the market, not being closer to the raw material source, absence of an industrial history, and having climatic conditions above all that are not conducive for leather manufacturing. Despite all these drawbacks, a world-class unit was created through untiring efforts of the team working under the visionary leader of Mr. Gupta. I would like to take this opportunity to add a personal note from me to Mr. Gupta as well. Sir, having observed your ways of working and through various conversations with you, I have been able to distill three mottos that summarizes your persona and have been a guide for me throughout my career. And hopefully, this will help the budding managers who have been listening to this program today as well. The first and foremost thing which I learned from you is go the extra mile to build relationships. Relationships, along with domain expertise, help progress in our business and as well as our personal lives. The second one, forgive the mistakes and look ahead. To err is human, so learn the lesson and forge ahead. This is the second lesson. The third is very, very important. Have a very humane approach to your people. In your own words, sir, you look after the people and the people will look after the business. Without further ado, I would like to inform Mr. Gupta that a lot of Tata colleagues are attending this program and are very eager to hear you as well as Mr. Gopal Krishnan. We have the pleasure of having Mr. Muthuraman, the ex-Vice Chairman Tata Steel and Chairman Tata International, Mr. Nerurkar, who is the ex-Managing Director Tata Steel, Mr. Piyush Pankaj, who is IAS ex-Revenue Secretary and a Director of Tata Power and Tata International, Mr. A.K. Vora, Chairman Tata BP Solar and ex-Director Tata International, Mr. O.K. Kaul, the ex-Executive Director Tata International, Mr. R. Bala, who is ex-director Tata Zambia and also president Tata International, Mr. Sunil Bhaskaran, who is the current managing director of AirAsia, and also Mr. Murli, who was the ex-CEO of Tata Southeast Asia. And plus, a large number of Tata family members are listening to you today, and also a large number of Central India management fraternity. Sir, I thank you once again for kindly consenting to attend this program. Now, may I request Sri Muthuraman sir to say a few words about his starter journey and also on Mr. Gupta. Over to you, Mr. Muthuraman sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan. It's a great pleasure for me to be in this program because I have known Tata Group, Tata Steel, and Mr. Syamal Gupta for more than 50 years. In fact, Mr. Syamal Gupta is one of the first persons that I ever met in my career in Tata Steel way back in 1966-68. Talking first on Tata Group, in the world of business and industry, Tata Group, I think, is very unique and very special. I say unique and special because long before businesses realized that they have a responsibility beyond business, long before governments realized it, long before regulators realized it, and long before management schools started having business responsibility as a case study in their courses for students, long before all that, Tata Group started with the philosophy that the fundamental reason for business is society. And oneness with the society is a fundamental characteristic of business. So it's a great pleasure to have worked with Tata Steel, worked for Tata Steel and Tata Group. And somebody like Mr. Syamal Gupta has not only worked, he has worked for more than 50 years, I think 55 years or so, if I remember correctly. And he has contributed immensely, more than many people that I have known. I first met Mr. Syamal Gupta, I think in late 60s, probably 1968 or 69, when he was Chief Development Manager. He was one of my earliest bosses in the company. What struck me about Mr. Gupta was that his infectious enthusiasm about anything new. He wanted to create something every day, something new every other day that he will create. In fact, in Jamshedpur, I recall those days when he was trying to make plastic-coated sheets. He was trying to make cladded sheets out of sheets which are not even flat enough to touch each other properly. So he was a great enthusiast about doing everything. And he's a great Tata man. He's a tremendous relationship builder, tremendous networker. In fact, in South Africa, I think he's known as Mr. Tata Group. If somebody was called Mr. Tata Group in South Africa, I think it started with Mr. Syamal Gupta. There's one thing about Mr. Syamal Gupta that I would like to mention. He is an absolutely true Tata man. The only equivalent metaphor that I can recall is there used to be a cricketer in England called Kenneth Barrington, K.F. Barrington. Barrington was a huge scorer against Australia, and probably among all the English batsmen, he had the highest average against Australia. And the Australian cricketers, whenever they saw Barrington come out of the cricket pavilion to bat, they used to say that they could see the Union Jack flying on top of Barrington's head. When I see Mr. Syamal Gupta, I see Tata flag flying on his head all the time. He's an absolutely true Tata man. And I wish him all success, and I wish his book great success. And I wish you, Mr. Syamal Gupta, a long life and a very safe and healthy life, and all the best to you. And it has been great working under you, working under your guidance, and working alongside you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muthuraman. Thanks for this. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Now, may I request Sri Dr. Himanshu Rai to take over from us. Dr. Rai is the director of IIM Indore and is also an esteemed colleague in the IMA board with me. He's also an ex-Tata Steel member. Over to Mr. Rai now, and he will speak about the book. Thank you, Mr. Rai.
Thank you so much, Mohan. And in fact, when Mr. Rathi asked me to speak here, he kind of didn't warn me. He didn't give me a heads up that I'm going to meet so many familiar people. So Mr. Nerurkar out there, hi, how are you? And Mr. Muthuraman, of course, he was the managing director when I left Tata Steel. And by the way, that particular example that he gave of the cricketer, may I tell all of you, allow me to tell you that Mr. Muthuraman, a great spinner himself, plays cricket and a very avid quizzer. And that is one of the beauties of the Tata Group, that if you talk to anyone, and I can assure you all the people over here, whether it's Mr. Gopalakrishnan or Mr. Nerurkar or Mr. Muthuraman, you would find a talent which goes beyond making steel. And that is something that makes all of us extremely proud of this organization that we work with, so much so that even now I call myself a Tata's man, just like what Mohan pointed out and just like what Mr. Muthuraman pointed out. And it also happens it's a happen chance that Dr. Irani seems to be following me everywhere. So when I quit Tata Steel and went to IIM Ahmedabad to study, he was the first person to come and speak. When I joined IIM Lucknow as a professor, he became the chairman board of governors. And when I took over as a director of IIM Indore, he was the first person to come and speak at an IIMA event. And he told me that he keeps an eye on the people who have worked with him. So such is the Tata Group. And Mr. Gupta, many congratulations and best wishes for your 86th birthday. And the first thing that struck me about your book was how beautifully you have put in the personal stories and the way you have weaved the business history of the Tatas while bringing out the quintessential spirit of the people, of the places, and of the characters is amazing. So I'm going to read back some of your own words, but these are the words which have really stayed with me so far as this book is concerned. Please allow me to indulge in a kind of a 3-minute odd monologue while I read out this particular passage, which is on page 51, for those if you have the book ready with you, on 2nd March 1971, Mr. Syamal Gupta writes, a high-level team, including the top brass of TISCO, led by Jay, Jari, Mulgaonkar, and Nanavati, visited the ring rolling plant. All of us were on tenterhooks. We knew of Jari and Mulgaonkar's penchant for quality and their uncompromising standards on industrial hygiene and employee welfare. So it was a great relief when this high-level visit concluded with the distinguished team members expressing their satisfaction at the way the project was shaping up. JRE and the team complimented us for putting up such a great plant. Though it was a small mill compound, compared to TISCO, it was one of our first successful attempts to diversify and to manufacture products out of the JPC price control list. The success of the ring rolling mill project was possible because of the tremendous support from the managing director, the chief engineer, and others in Jamshedpur. It was also due in a big way at Mulgaonkar's continuous encouragement, his unwavering faith in people, and his unique method of creating an entrepreneurial spirit of confidence building and encouraging young minds to think big. I recall his advice when he once wrote to me, and I quote, ladies and gentlemen, because this particular passage should find its way into the discourse of all the business schools of this planet. I already in my course called Leadership to Literature used the book called Beyond the Last Blue Mountain, which is J.R.E. Tata's biography, as a part of that course where we analyze that book to build frameworks of leadership. And allow me to quote this as Mr. Syamal Gupta has quoted. There's a belief in our country that our culture and our Indian character cannot allow our people to attain consistently high standards. Shoddiness and carelessness are our God-given, unalterable way of life. But if, with faith in them, you ask our men for their best, they rise to your belief and in their worth to create a momentum towards improvement. Often, I have seen men who are considered ordinary rise to the extraordinary heights. Do not accept second-rate work, expect the best, ask for it, pursue it relentlessly, and you will get it, unquote. These deep words of advice stood me in good stead even in the later years at Tata. When faced with the most daunting situations, I drew upon the innate wisdom of these words, which has shown me the direction time and again. And I think this is as true of any of us who have held any positions of responsibility and accountability. And these words, Mr. Syamal Gupta, are not only going to stay with me for a very, very long time, but I can assure you that they are going to stay with all my students and in all the panel discussions and in all the business schools that I speak in. And to me personally, this has been a great journey because all the IMA members, if you recall a particular story that I always keep telling to you people, which is a quote from Alice in Wonderland. Incidentally, I heard that particular conversation between Alice and Cheshire Cat once from Mr. Muthuraman. And thereafter, I picked it up and I use it till date. And now, Mr. Syamal Gupta, I'm going to pick up this particular part of your book and I'm going to repeat it on as many occasions as possible. Allow me to end with telling you something that is true of this country, of this great country of ours, and is equally true of the Tatas, because one of the beliefs that Tatas always have had is that what is good for India is good for the Tatas. And one of the things our scripture says, Eta desh prasutasya sakasha dagra janmanaha swam swam charitram shrena prithvivyam sarvamanavaha, that this country has produced people who, by the strength of their character, have shown way to the rest of the world. And therefore, on this evening, allow me to say that this company, the Tatas, this particular group, has actually created people such as yourself, Mr. Gupta, and such as many of the luminaries sitting over here, who with the strength of the character have shown way to many of us and to many people in the world of business and in the world of business education. So thank you very much for writing this brilliant piece. And once again, many congratulations to you, Mr. Syamal Gupta.
Thank you, Mr. Roy. Thank you, Dr. Roy. Thanks. That's an excellent summary. Now, may I request Ashwin Palsekar to take it forward? And I think, Ashwin, you can take it forward, the proceedings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mohan sir. Thank you for making 57 become so special. With the of luminaries with us, and I think 57th is the first time feeling of am I audible?
Ashwin, yes, it's better.
Yeah. So thank you, sir. I think all luminaries here, thank you so much for making the 57th year so special. And 57th year is also special because this is the first time we get a feeling that that 60th year is very close to us. So thank you for this. Thank you, Himanshu, sir. You're wonderful as usual. So now, without wasting time, if I could request Mr. R. Gopalakrishnan and Shri Syamal Gupta to take the evening forward. Sir, thank you. Thank you for gracing the occasion. All our guests who've joined us, all our members, please keep posting your questions in the chat. I will try to collate all these questions with as many diverse ideas as possible. And with the little time available, I'll try and get these questions across. So over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Am I audible? Am I clear?
Absolutely, sir. Sound as a bell.
Okay, good. I would like to add my compliments, as everybody else has, to the IMA. I have very fond memories. I've been there more than once. And I hope Shiv Singh Mehta as well. Please convey my compliments to him. He has been my host on several occasions. We have about 83 people on this program right now, some of whom are former Tata employees. And I would like to focus on the book that Syamal Gupta has written, because that's really the purpose of this whole exercise, apart from celebrating and observing the foundation day of the Indore Management Association. What is the noise there? There is some noise? Some noise, Mr. Palshikar? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, sir. You're audible, sir. Okay. Absolutely audible, sir.
All right. There is some bus-like noise.
I would request Neena ji, if you could mute everyone till sir is speaking, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Okay. I would like to also thank Akhilesh ji for arranging this program for us, because I think there is something distinctive about Syamal Gupta's book. The greatest book written on Tatas? No, it's not. There isn't the greatest book anyway. But there are books written by academics and scholars. And I want to take the event of 1857 has been written by many, many learned historians, colonialists, books. But I came upon a book written in Marathi and written by a Marathi person from Pune. He's a Brahmin who was sent away from home to go and earn a living. And the year was 1857. And from Pune, he walked all the way to Delhi via in fact, Mau, not so far away from Indore. And when he reached Mau, he has written, what's happening? Should I just continue?
Yeah.
Neena ji? Okay.
Sir, please continue.
When he reached Mau, he found that there was a unrest. The cause of the unrest, as mentioned by him in his diary, was that a chekliar, which is a sort of cobbler. So unlike what Mr. Mohan said, cobblers were there in Mau long before Devas. He had told a Brahmin that he would like to drink water from the Brahmin's pot. And that had caused some tension. But actually he misread it. It was the first beginnings of what happened in 1857. He, of course, went on further. He went to Bittor, he went to Kanpur. And I found it a very fascinating journeyman's description of 1857. It is written in Marathi. It is a diary that he wrote by hand, a daily diary. And then he died in 1904. 1901 or 1902, he passed away. And it's only about 10-15 years ago that his family found this old tattered script in Marathi, which was then translated into English and published. And it gave me a very delightful read about what happened on the ground in 1857. Just a minute, please. There are too many noises going on here. So I liken Syamal Gupta's book a bit to that, Journeyman. Somebody who has walked on the ground, seen things firsthand, written without a great flourish, not attempting to make literature or history, but just like to write human experiences. And I found it very, very interesting to read the book, to read the manuscript. And of course, I'm delighted for Syamal Gupta and for Tatas and for myself that this book has actually been published. Then lots has been said about how Syamal is a quintessential Tata person, but I think it's time we should listen to him rather than all of us. So Syamalda, welcome on the show. I hope you're there. And are you unmuted?
Yeah.
So the way we will spend the next maybe 40 minutes is we'll explore the book and your experiences. I'll ask you some questions, but really the onus is on you to give your reply. So formally, congratulations on this wonderful new book, which everybody has liked so much. You have worked in Tata's for 50 years. I don't think I have met anybody else who's worked in the same organization for 50 years without a break. You've done with great dedication and distinction. Era now, when young people change their jobs every 5 years, I think it's an important way to start to ask you, what is the diet your wife feeds you that gave you so much dedication and loyalty to work for 50 years through disappointments, through highs, through lows? Can you share? Because young people should feel inspired by the fact that loyalty, dedication, and fairness in an organization keeps people. Please go ahead.
Well, diet is no special for me, but hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. Let me tell you, in Tata's really, I found that it gives me all the opportunities that I wanted to have to do things the way we have done. Right from Central Engineering Division, where I was working, and we had galaxy of people, Mr. Podnwala, Mr. K.P. Malingam, various other people who are very supportive of what we do. They know that many times we will make a mistake, but they always prompted us to do things. And those days, things were really difficult, And so that is what one thing is that Tatas, they give opening or they give opportunities to others to excel. And in the process, everybody is happy. I'll give you one example of it that you have written about it years back about shipboard billet mill. That's a job what was not assigned to me, but I got interested, impressed, and I tried to do it. And I got tremendous support from all my bosses and colleagues to make it happen. So here is a organization which promotes young people to do right things in the right way, and that I'm sure that sort of atmosphere remains there and perhaps much more. And I'm sure the same thing Mr. Muthuraman has told about TISCO and Tata organization. And I'll interrupt for a minute. I'm delighted to see all the TISCO people here and Tata people. Muthuraman, Hemant, Nerurkar, and everybody's name, It's a great opportunity for me to meet with them. I think most of them, Sunil Vaskaran, I have met once in a while. But it's a great feeling that I'm having. And I want to thank Indore Management Association to make this happen so that we can get opportunity to mix my old colleagues and friends and come up with many things that will be interesting for everybody. So I have told you about one thing that sheet bar billet mill thing, and it was a real tough problem, and nothing was happening. But then when I put up the proposal, I was assistant engineer. Gopal, please understand, just an assistant engineer. When I put it up to Mr. Malingam and Mr. Bhaganwala, chief engineer, they saw it that it's a good possibility and then took it forward. Now this is a tough job, very tough job. Demag mill was having problem and simple problems, but we could not do it. We had all problems from everywhere. Demag was sending people this, that, but a simple solution was found out, and with the help of all the seniors, this was implemented. That was when I was 25 years old. So you can see the environment was such that you get a chance to do things, to grow and contribute to the society.
So what you're saying is that if a young person took initiative of his own with an honest intention to solve a company problem or a departmental problem, you are not aware that any boss told him to stop doing so.
I agree with you.
And I don't know what
I'm sure Muthu will agree with me also.
young people feel it's a generic problem, and so Tata's is not an exception, that in large organizations, you are not encouraged to take initiative. And we always tell them, you take the initiative and nobody will stop you. And you seem to be saying exactly the same thing.
I think there's a general problem with many people tell me, I mean, nowadays I don't meet, oh, I had a good proposal, but I could not do it. My boss said it is no good. Then this is that. I said, what prevents you to put it up to the management and do it? That they won't do. These are all half-hearted attempts to do things and not being able to do it, then blame the management. Now, I think Tata's management, Tisco management is very proactive, very supportive, and I've spent a lot of money with all this little bit of things what I have been doing here and there, which I don't think many other organizations will do.
So Syamal, the second aspect I would like to explore based on what you just said is you are implying in the way you write, not implying, you actually say so, that business is about domain knowledge, but it's really about people. And you have eulogized people like Sumant Mulgaonkar and Nani Palkhiwala and people like that. What I would like to ask you is some memories of your association with Nani Palkhiwala and Sumant Mulgaonkar as humane people with whom you as a young officer had a chance to work.
Well, I'll tell you, I met Mr. Nani Palkhiwala in '72 in Singapore. He was requested to come because there are some legal issues for our land or anything. So I went to the airport, suited, booted, tie, car, everything, and I find Mr. Palkhiwala in a shirt, and a trouser, no tie, nothing, and a small bag. So he came out, I just wished him, and the first time I'm meeting him, we know about his greatness, but he asked me, what is the point to discuss tomorrow? I gave him a brief, about 150, 200 pages. So he said, okay, good. Then he was doing like this, literally, page by page. By the time we came to the hotel, he said, okay, I have done it, you take it back. I just said, would you like to keep it? No, I'll meet you tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. My God, I was stunned. Next day morning, I took him to our lawyer, Shukleen and Bok. That lawyer became the Chief Justice of Singapore later on days. And he was to the point, so precise, so perfect. I got amazed to see how he articulated everything, and not with a view to fight, but to find out a solution. It was subtle. So this is a great deal of lesson for me, that a person who can concentrate so much on a thing that he knows, he can really find out a solution.
There's a story told. Yes, it does. But I have a follow-up on that regarding Sumant Mulgaonkar, with whom you worked very closely. There's a story. Tata has lots of stories, and sometimes they are true, sometimes you don't know. But there is a story that Sumo was named after Sumant Mulgaonkar. And it was done by the engineers of Tata Motors, or Telco as it was called in those days, because every day at lunchtime, Mr. Mulgaonkar used to go away and mysteriously vanish. And people thought he was going to some five-star hotel to meet some big dignitary. One day they followed him and found that he was sitting at a dhaba and talking to truck operators about how Tata trucks can be improved. I don't know whether you know whether this is a true story, but can you tell us a bit about Mr. Sumant Mulgaonkar? And if you do have a comment on this particular story, that would be interesting.
Well, this story I don't know, but I have every reason to believe it is correct. That Mr. Mulgaonkar would go down to everybody, talk to everybody, sit with them, exchange notes with them, and move forward. That doesn't mean he fired the people when it is necessary. He was very strict and he was very systematic. This is possible for Mr. Mulgaonkar, knowing him a bit more over the years, he can do many things, There are many things like that. What is there in his life?
Right. I move to a different subject now from the leaders whom you worked with and whom you referred to in the book. By the way you referred to them has a great undertone of affection. There is admiration, but there's a great affection. Is that a correct reading of the way you've written?
Yeah. Because that is how they treated me, Not initially, over the years of time, with Mr. Mulgaonkar, I will go and meet him. Last years of his life, he was not well. We'll listen to things, and he said, "Okay, Syamal, go ahead. No questions asked, nothing. Go ahead, And then in the board meeting, when I put up the proposal, he will support it. And the innate faith and understanding that it is that he trusted the man rightly or wrongly, and he did it. And that is why anybody and everybody who came in contact with him, any job given by him, everybody will do it with that. Old Myra is here, he will tell you the same story. Incredible people.
So while, 50% or 70% of the credit must go to the environment that Tata provided, my sense of logic tells me that some 30%, 40% must also be attributed to your attitude. Because there are lots of other people who joined Tata at the same time, but who do not have that kind of experience. So can you share with us your growing up experiences, even before Tata's, which shaped you as a person? We'll come to your shaping as a manager, but little later. But tell us about, because biologists tell us that evolution happened because of the ecological shaping of people.
Well, Gopal, as you know, I was just growing when the country was partitioned, when there were a lot of Syamal in eastern India. Displaced persons were coming, displaced persons were going, and all those things when I used to see as a young person, I was always wondering why this. No answer I did find. But that had some effect on me. And, we were staying in a small house in Calcutta. And then some of my relatives came from across, and they stayed with us. We had no problem in accommodating them, and they became part of us, and they became family, and we lived with them. When they left, we felt sorry. So the thing is this, that living together, sharing things, that I learned from my younger days in Calcutta, and also seeing that how hostile situation could be on the streets or in the areas, but you got to save yourself. You've got to save yourself not by throwing stones or anything, but by protecting yourself so that you can move on. And that's the same thing I've written in my book. that when I passed my engineering in 55, there are a lot of things happening, that troubles of partition, troubles of mass migration of people were there, but there were good things also. India was going for major industrialization, 3 steel plants. So all those things we used to see, and our feeling was, we are Indians, we will do it. I mean, I don't know today whether people will feel that way or not, but they used to feel that way. We are nowhere near about it, but see, things are happening in India, and we must contribute. Can we make a difference in any way? We did nothing to do that, but that was the feeling. That was the feeling,
So it's not just a job that you are looking for. You're looking for something which could form of self-expression of yourself. If I may ask you a question, because young people find it difficult to understand how you could live on that salary. What was your salary when you started your career in 1956?
Why not to ask Mr. Malingam? He wrote a piece of letter that, he says that he's not aware of anybody with a salary of 360 rupees per month to move up to the Tata Sons board. And the only thing that helped you to do that, your honesty and hard work. That's the thing Malingam has written. It is true, it is very difficult. No, but I tell you, we were much better off those days, Gopal, I must tell you. Because out of that, hostel fee used to be 60 rupees or 80 rupees. Then I had my father's bicycle, which used to take me to the factory and what's. And then 20 rupees for the club. What more do you want?
Excellent. I mean, this sounds like a fairy tale, but it's in a lifetime that just happened. And I'm so happy that people are able.
It's a fact. It's a fact.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
Muthu's lifetime was not much different from that. He will tell you also that.
Right. I want to shift from your early days growing up as well as to your days in Tata's to this point about globalization. When I began my career in 1967, I'm not sure I knew that word. I mean, nobody talked about it. When I read your book, I certainly get the feeling that whereas the common perception is that Tata started globalizing by acquiring British Steel and Jaguar Land Rover in the 2000s, really the first steps were taken by soldiers like you. You are the one who went to Doklam or Bangkok, trying to explore what globalization is. Would you think that there's a valid point of view?
I think, yes, you should really think it over, because that was again Mr. Mulgaonkar. In 66, he sent me to Hong Kong, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, and all these places to look for opportunities. I didn't know what to look for, but I did, and I saw things are happening. Singapore was different those days to what it is today, but I could see how things are happening. So I don't know whether we did it for globalization or just to go for a place where people can work peacefully, where there is no import restrictions, where there is no restrictions about hiring and firing. Of course, we didn't do any hiring and firing, but a free economy, meritocracy is something which is prime for Singapore. Those are the things attracted us. You may call it globalization, yes, I agree, but that was not the purpose of our setting up Tata Precision Industries. But
yes, of course. I mean, very often words are invented later on. For example, when Benz made the first internal combustion engine, it was called a horseless carriage. The word automobile wasn't invented. But if you go back in the history of automobiles, you'll find that it started with Otto Benz and then came to Henry Ford. And then the word automobile, something that moves on its own, was invented. So the word globalization wasn't known at that time. But tell me one thing. you went to set up something called Tata Precision Industries at a time in 1970, 72, when India was not known for engineering or precision. Neither was associated with India. Was it an act of faith? Was it an act of faith, or what was it?
You are right, because I mean, just when I used to go and meet Americans, for our precision engineering items, they say, precision engineering in India? Tata, we never heard your name, So they're okay. They might tell me that, but we got to persuade them, show them what we can do. But that was a real challenge. And I had Mr. Srinivasan, my colleague, who was a brilliant engineer. He's still in Singapore. I mean, together, they did a great job, And then within 2 years, we had top companies on our order book: Siemens, Fairchild, Texas Instruments, National Semiconductor. The name India never heard. I mean, India never heard, not popularly known. So that is because we could be in Singapore. And we realized if we are in Singapore, we got to go global. You got to grow to global means you go to the companies which are global and try to enlist them for your support. And they are very helpful, I must tell you, very helpful. It's tough.
So if somebody had to write a book on the globalization of Tata, the incident in the Garden of Eden will start with Syamal Gupta going to Singapore or something like that. Very, very early days when the idea of making a network of international companies. You can't hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
We lost you for a few minutes.
We can hear you now, sir. Please go ahead.
I was saying that if somebody had to write a book on Tata's globalization, the Garden of Eden episode when Adam and Eve were featured would be back in 1965 to 70, when people like you went to Singapore and learned the first time about making international networks. Would that be a fair statement? Can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear
Yes,
you.
sir, we can hear you.
What happened then? Syamal is not responding, so I thought he may not be able to hear. Is he got cut off?
No, sir.
But I can't see him anymore. Syamal? You're back. Could you hear the question?
Kindly repeat, Gopal.
I'm just saying that if you had to write a book on Tata's globalization journey, it must begin with your going to Singapore or somewhere around those days, correct?
Yes. Gopal, I can hear you.
Yeah. Now, soon after you went to set up what doesn't sound very logical, and business is not always about being logical, you very successfully set up that company, Tata Precision Industries, at a time when Singapore was modernizing very rapidly. You went off like David Livingstone to Africa. Tell us a bit about that. I mean, no Indian was going to Africa in those days. It must have been quite a switch, apart from the fact that they are equidistant from India on two sides of the globe. What took you to Africa?
Well, I studied a bit about Africa. I had few African friends in the college. I realized its land mass is 7.5 times of India, and population is less than India, with tremendous natural resources, and there are a lot of opportunities. And what attracted me a lot when I first went there, moved on the streets of Zambia, Lusaka, I found all gensets, poverty there, everything done by Europeans and Americans. Not a single Indian products are there. It quite quizzed me, So I inquired about people, but they didn't know that India can do such a thing. That means they have never been exposed to that. And so I took that as a thing that we must do. I'm not saying personal or anything, it is Tata's. I thought we must do that, expose them what India can do. My theory was very simple. If Tata's or Syamal Gupta or anybody wants to business, first you must market India. After marketing India, then you can market Tata and then the products that you want to sell. Until and unless Tatas are India is established as a possible source of cars, trucks, trains, everything, we cannot sell because nobody will believe you. It's a strange thing. Nobody believed in us that we can do that. So that was a real challenge. And when I went and met all these newly liberated countries, it was, of course, I must tell you, a lot of African top bosses helped me. President Kenneth Kamra and President Tabe Mbeki, Dr. Sam Naijoma, who came to India. We showed them what we are doing, and they were very, very interested in promoting what India can do, what India has done. And that was the thing I took upon myself, that business or no business, this gap must be restored. And that's what I did. I didn't ask for business anywhere. I am a Bengali, I don't know how to do business. That is what really. So that is what I did, and then business came. But that's a fact, in those days, those countries, we never asked for anything. We just said, we have this, and we have this. We can do, India can do this, India can do that. And then we brought them to India several times. Indian government did a great job in creating such an environment there. And then, we used to have, Gopal, we have seen our Africa conclave in the CII, hundreds of people used to come. And that was a great pleasure to see that Indian products and services were introduced to them without much hang-ups.
So if you had to apply modern management methods of making a proposal, capital proposal, return on investment, and justify it, payback, you would never have gone to Africa or Singapore.
No.
There was a great deal of intuition and faith that we must do something different. Correct?
Yeah, that's true. You cannot, what shall I say, make a business plan to make precision tools. Where is the market? Who is the customer? Where it is going? All those things cannot do. But you have that, yes, there's a demand for precision engineering components in the world, and that is growing, and get it. If you do all the planning with master sheets and presentation and talk to people, you will achieve something, but I don't think you will achieve anything better than what we have done.
But when I talk to you now, I am reminded of my own days when you were chairman, managing director of Tata Exports, and I was the director for Hindustan Lever Exports, and that's when we first met, even before I joined Tata's. And foreign exchange, availability, credit facilities, and profitability were enough to put off the strongest hearts. How did you get over these things?
Realize that nobody buy Indian products to pay for the entire life period for a truck. So what we did, we arranged a line of credit, extreme line of credit. We involved them, talked to them, everybody, and then Kalyan Banerjee was there, and I said, whatever it is, you will never lose your money. We will get you the money. And that is how we gradually moved. And now everybody is there. All Indian companies are there in a big way.
Right. And I'm sure you miss Africa because all your old friends have become presidents and former presidents. They're very powerful people. But somehow the progress of Africa, nothing to do with Tata's, has been a bit disappointing to the world. I suppose that's the way, maybe people can say that of other countries as well. But that's not for us to debate. You have pioneered international relations in Tata's. We've talked about Singapore, we talked about Africa. But there's a third vector in your activities abroad. From approximately 1970 till you retired in 2000, almost 25, 30 years. You built a tremendous network of international companies. I want you to talk of just 2 or 3 of them as examples as to what did you do when you knocked on their door, when they not even heard of India or Tata's and Syamal Gupta.
That's the fun. Like Rolls Royce.
Tell us 2 or 3 stories.
I identified few companies who are reputed. Association with them will help us. So I went to Rolls and I didn't ask for any business. I invited them, showed them what we are doing, what we can do. Sir John Rose was very impressed. And then later on he gave business, which still we are doing, you know. One of their associates from Austria is giving business to Tata Advanced Material. Then think of the great fun, of course, is AIG. AIG, I did go in a different way, you know. We were to sell trucks. In many countries, the trucks, they cannot buy. So they want to do the counter trade. So there was a proposal in one of the African countries that they will buy truck and counter trading has to be done by us, either by something from there and so. So I went there and I found there is a possibility. And we did the job. And counter trade we did. One of the major companies who were doing this counter trade was AIG. So I was impressed with the AIG. What a big size company. And in those days, $20 billion company or something. They have everything. I thought this is a company, if we can develop, we can get a lot of business and which will help us also. So I developed contact with them. I was nothing much compared to the man I met, Hank Greenberg, the chairman, $20 billion company those days. But I managed to meet with him and his associates and talk to them what are the possibilities in India and what can be done. So then the joint venture was signed. Mr. Ratan Tata met Hank Greenberg and they were impressed with Ratan and they decided to join hands with Tatas. And then Ratan Tata was made an advisor on the international board. Then what I did, I said, there we cannot stop it here. So I asked Mr. Hank Greenberg one day, you know, he was a very simple man, you know. So he said, now Syamal, what are you here for? I said, sir, you have a very big IT department. Why not you give some chance to Tata Consultancy Service? Why not? I said, you'll save a lot of money. And he was a very good man in money. So I arranged a meeting for Dr. Kohli to meet with them. And then some business came through. You know, this is the way one after another it correlates. And that was a great fun, you know. That was a great fun. And then AIG today, two insurance companies are running well. I'm told, I don't know. Nobody keeps me informed, but they are doing well. And AIG's other things we could have done, financing, and everything we could have done, you know. Then another thing, I don't know if you know, that we had a tie-up with McDonnell Douglas Helicopter to make helicopter components, you know. And hopefully one day helicopter will be manufactured here. So Tata Advanced Material was accredited as the only approved supplier in those days for aviation industry in USA. You know, one leads to another. You know, you've got to keep your eyes and ears open. And here, you know, and it is that I didn't go and ask them for business. They say, we are doing this. Are you doing this? So here you go. You go. Something comes through. If it doesn't come through, don't go.
So very often young people think that entrepreneurs are made of a different way compared to professional managers. What you're telling us is really professional managers can be entrepreneurial and entrepreneurs can be professional managers. There's not the barrier between them is not an impenetrable membrane.
That's true. I think you got to do something. If you want to do something, you do it. You know? That's my point. No use talking, this is not being given by company, that is not being given company. Yes, company, there are rules and regulations and all the things. But you know, company like Tata's gives opportunity to many people to do many things.
Wonderful. Because yeah, go ahead. Yes.
I can tell you the many things I did, rather we did in Tata's. It was supported by the top management. You know, they never asked me for a scrap paper for profit and loss account. Not did they ask about return on investment. So I asked Mr. Mungaonkar once, sir, you have given me so much support for Tata BP Solar. I tell you, one of the successful joint ventures we have is Tata BP Solar. So he looked at me, he was sick those days. He told me something which is a very kind thing. He said, Syamal, never look at the project. I look at the person behind the project. See the innate faith he had in his people. Understand?
Yeah.
Have you heard me?
Yes, yes, yes. We can hear you. You're saying look at the person, not the project.
Yeah.
That's what you're summarizing.
He said is the man who is running the project.
This is wonderful because you're bringing out two truths that many young people today would do well to heed. The first is you're saying it's the people and not just the ideas. And the second thing you're saying is don't expect instant success. The joy of the victory lies in the peril of the fight. Those are wonderful lessons which I'm sure IMA would like to share with the younger people who may or may not be on the show. I'd like to leave some time for Mr. Mohan, who has probably curated some questions for us, for you rather. But I'd like to close with one question for you. You know, in the Mahabharata, there is a character called Yayati. You remember him? When he became an old person, he wanted to get back his youth. And if by that magic you got to be young again, what would you do differently in your career?
That's a very interesting question. I think if I was young, I will try to do what as an entrepreneur. Because today India has changed, opportunities are plenty. Our time these opportunities are not there and we are afraid of borrowing money and anything. But today I think government is giving a lot of support as I see in the newspaper. If it is so, young entrepreneurs should come up and support the country to move forward.
Lovely. So there's a 3B formula. Bangla Babur Babsha. Nice way to end. Mr. Palshikar, you have now put together the questions. Would you take over and please ask the questions to Mr. Gupta?
Thank you, sir. Normally, tough job to. At SP Gen also, I told you the same thing when we were moderating the program. I was given a chance to moderate a program of yours, and I had to speak right after you. So I said it's very challenging to speak after you have left because then nobody listens to what we are speaking. But anyway, so thank you, sir. Gopalakrishnan, sir. Thank you, Syamal Gupta, sir. I think these are extremely good words of wisdom. And I think in these very tough COVID times, when you hear veterans, when you hear such successful people, it gives you a sense to believe that, tough times are over and good times will come someday soon. And a lot to look forward to. Thank you once again. We have many questions, and I'm just trying to collate as many questions meaning similar as possible so we're able to ask different ideas.
I have
Before
a suggestion for you, Ashwin. May I make a suggestion? Since you're associated with SP Jain, in case IMA is recording this, you might send a recording of this to Tulsi Jayakumar and have them play it out in the family management. Yeah. Go ahead. Please go ahead. Your questions for Mr. Gupta.
Yeah. So before I start with those, I start with questions I've on the chat also. I cannot, let Mr. Sunil Bhaskaran go without speaking something. He's been one of our esteemed conclave speakers, and I would request you to speak about your experience with Tatas and something that you could add on this occasion. Over to you, Sunil sir. Rebecca, can you please unmute?
Yeah. Thank you, Ashwin. Can you hear me?
Very well, sir. Very well.
Okay. So firstly, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I don't want to take more than a minute or so. It's been such a delight. I'm actually seeing and hearing from Syamal Gupta after many months at least. And it's always a pleasure to listen to Mr. Syamal Gupta and to Mr. Gopalakrishnan, and then to see Mr. Muthuraman and Mr. Nerudkar, to listen to Himanshu for the first time. It's really been a delight. I've had the opportunity of working with Mr. Syamal Gupta because for a short stint I had moved from Tata Steel onto Tata International when Mr. Gupta was the chairman. And I must say some of the things which were said today, 2 or 3 things really stand out. One is he's a man of great, ability to create relationships. And right there at the top, Mr. Gopalakrishnan mentioned about many of his close friends being very senior leaders who have led countries in Africa and very senior business leaders across in Japan, in Asia, in UK, in US. And this ability of his to connect has been fantastic. He mentioned that as a Bengali Babu, he has not really been somebody who did business, but what came out of that, foundation that he laid in terms of business and creating that credibility for the Tatas meant a lot in terms of creating businesses. And that's something I don't think I've met any other person who has this ability of creating that, business connect and on a very basic term. So that's something which is fantastic. The second thing is he loves technology, and at any point if you talk to him, he will be talking about things which are at least a few years ahead, and in which the latest kind of investments are being made at the academia level. And his connect with Imperial College have been one of those. So whether it's with solar cells or with other future materials, is something that he has been very much there. And quite frankly, he's been a visionary in terms of building businesses, and that's come out of his own ability to. Now we understand this as ecosystem, all stakeholders. He has always had that ability of creating all of them to work together to really make a business happen. And I think it's been great foresight to have done that at the time and days of earlier. I must mention one thing which many people here may be aware of. If you have read Lee Kuan Yew, who was the strongman of Singapore, who really built Singapore, and if you read his book, which is From Third World to First World, there's a point where he talked about the origins of Singapore and how they invested in learning on technology. And he talked about the training for technology came from some of the Japanese giants, and he talks about Tatas. And I was delighted when I read that for the first time. And it's things like this which happened only because of somebody like Mr. Syamal Gupta, and it really gives us great pride that I've walked a few steps along with him in Tata International. And I guess and the last point I want to say is one of the great things about Mr. Gupta is he's a great motivator, and he's the kind of person who finds and tells youngsters that there's more in you than a youngster would ever believe is possible. And that's the greatness of somebody like Mr. Syamal Gupta. So I'm just delighted to be here, and of course to join with Indore Management Association. I have very fond memories. Ashwin, thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for speaking. And it's very clear that we have sir we also have Mr. Muthuraman with us. So incidentally, it is our foundation day, and Mr. Muthuraman, Mr. Godrej, and of course our book. One of the first speakers in our flagship event at IMA Conclave. And so the event which you were part of at a very nascent stage, leaps and bounds. And last year we had about 6,000 students and more than 2,000 corporates attend this program. It's recorded as one of the biggest events happening in a single auditorium. So thank you, sir, for sowing seeds of something which has grown into a very good, flourishing, fruiting tree. So there are a lot of questions which I have got. I've just been putting together. But before that, I also request Mr. Oki Kaul, who's been associated with IMA also as well as Tata, to please speak for a minute. Kaul sir, you're there. If you can just unmute and speak, please. Ever, can you help with the technology if, somehow?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Sorry.
Yes, sir, we can hear you now. We can hear you now, Kaul sir.
Can I hear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir. Go ahead, Kaul sir. We can hear you.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Hi.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Please carry on, sir. Yeah. I think we're experiencing a network challenge. Reber, if you can fix that in the meanwhile, question. This is a specific question, Gupta sir, which has come. One of our members, Arjun Lahiri, says that his daughter is a in mechanical and MBA finance. As an employee, she wants to align her academic qualification from becoming a profit center for her employer. What vision and mission do you envisage her, especially with the prevailing culture of preparing elaborate Excel sheets, PPTs, and everything? I think so. Everybody has that, especially who've got bright kids and students. How do they align their goals, their talent, with what the employer wants? At times, what employers want. Numbers can at times trivialize talent. So, how do you really balance talent between numbers? Can they be aligned all the time?
I think she should do it. If you plan on broadsheets, what can be done, how what can be done, I don't know. Because I believed in continuous training and learning. Everything, every day, there is something to learn. And this young kid, she is very bright and brilliant, and she should just do it what she wants to do. And it is not that Tatas, there are no opportunities for such people. There are.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Reber, have you been able to fix the call subs system?
Yes, sir. He's also is trying for that. Now he can speak.
Call sub, can we try once more, please? Still see a challenge there, so I'm putting the next question across, sir, while that begins. So, are people from small businesses, small family-owned businesses, maybe 5 crore to 50 crore turnover companies. They all want to go global. They all want to export, but they feel there is a challenge, and export is meant for the big boys who can invest a lot, who can create a big mark outside, and there are no low-hanging fruits for exports. So, is there something which to succeed where the ROI can come quicker? Anything, sir?
I think there is no quick way to succeed. One got to work hard and do it. And I think smaller companies, where management is lean and they are effective and they are continuous learning, big or small does not matter, they can do a lot. Small companies has an advantage, they can move fast, they can catch up the technology fast, because one thing I'm again telling, the technology is changing very fast. And you got to catch up with it. To catch up with it, we must learn. And in a small organization, they are in an advantageous position to do that. So I don't think there is any hang-up for small companies not to go global and make a success.
Thank you, sir. Calls up. I think yes.
Hello, Mr. Kaul.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Not only my career wise, but also learning which the best. And in my 30 I'm working as if I am
Sorry, I think there seems to be some network issue at Call Saab's end.
Yeah.
But I think those feelings were very profound, and those came straight from the heart. So thank you, sir. Thank you for this little interjection, which I think made Gupta Saab also reminded him of old days and slightly emotional about that excellent warm connect. So there's one more question which has come. It's an employee-employer relationship. Many of our people who've put in, seems it's not that happy a relationship. It has become very objective. People don't work beyond 5 years, 10 years in many organizations. Of course, it's not so rattled also. It's not that people quit at the drop of a hat, but still it's not as intimate as it was, say, 2 generations back. So who is responsible? Is it the government? Is it the environment? Is it the internet? Is it the employer, the employee? Do we fix the blame, and who can correct, and what corrections can be done?
I think this is a very complicated question, but my short answer will be that people must be self-motivated, with continuous education, training, and development, and must be self-motivated, do something better than what he has been doing yesterday. And that's what was Mungalkar's theme. At one time he told me, Syamal, if you do a job better than others, then you become leaders. You don't have to worry about it. That's a Singapore lesson he gave me. He knew that we are going there when we have no particular management skill or technical skill, and we don't know what we are going to do. But he only said few things. One is that if you do a job better than others, then you will be a leader. I know those were the words which was very, very much important. I hope I have tried to put it as much as possible, but I'm just telling these great skills, look at Mr. Mugaukar, Mr. Palkivala, Ratan Tata, JRD. JRD told me once, that Syamal, now you are in charge of export. Try to export as much as possible manufactured goods. Manufactured goods to export. Internal meaning I understood later, that if you have manufactured goods exported, then you are exporting goods where people have worked hard to make a product and to sell it on the international market.
Thank you, sir. So I think there are 2 questions, one for you and one for Mr. Of course, there are many questions. So I'll ask you one question and one to RG sir also. So the last question to you is, I can just put these thoughts together. So sometimes, people are confused, especially I think this question has come from startups on one side, where within a few years you reach billion-dollar valuations. On the other hand, you have industries they've inherited, possibly from their parents, where it's a 3rd-generation inheritance, where even after working for many years, doing all the formula right, looking at profit every quarter, every year, you still are maybe a 100 or a 200 crore company. So the youth is confused. Should I invest into startup and get into the billion-dollar valuation, or shall I focus on my existing foundry, cement, family business, which would take a lot of effort to come close to those? So how do you address this confusion, sir?
You see, ultimately, what the entrepreneur wants to do. That's the key point, to expand his business, to diversify, or to move forward and go global. Those are the things he should decide and work on that. The results are there.
I think success lies in whatever you take, provided you are sincere about it. I think that is the inference I draw from. So before I go to RG sir for the final question, I want to tell all our participants that the sir has been kind enough to offer a few discounted copies from him as a gesture of goodwill towards IMA for all members of IMA, and some of the student chapters associated with IMA in Central India. So please register with our General Manager Neena Jain. She can help. She can passage those books being made available. It's a good read, I'm sure. RG sir, my final question to you. I think thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your time. RG sir, my final question. The session which I moderated with you at SPJN I'll take the same things that you spoke about, narcissistic CEOs. So there are many CEOs. I don't know how many of us are narcissistic or not. But any word of caution to them from you in these COVID times?
Well, that's quite a step away from. I want to add one little.
I mean, sir, I don't know how many of us would test for. I mean, I don't know how many of us test positive for narcissism, but I'm sure many of us do.
Let me just offer a point of view to the question that you asked Syamal Gupta about the startups becoming $1 billion and the old. You know, when this universe was created, there were bacteria and viruses. There was no dinosaur. Later on, the dinosaur and the elephant came. And there was a discussion amongst the viruses and the bacteria that we have been here so long and we are still so small. But the bacteria, the dinosaur has become so big. The fact of the matter is that bacteria and viruses are far more adaptable. And so you must build businesses with adaptability, not size. That's the message I would like to give. On testing positive for narcissism, there's not a single leader who will not test positive. Myself and Syamal Gupta and everybody else. It's what you do when you test positive that matters. I do believe that narcissism is a part of the baggage that goes with leadership, whether you're in business, in academics, or in politics or anything else. Thank you.
Finally, may I take this opportunity to thank IMA, Mr. Mohan, and to meet all my friends, Mr. Muthuraman, Mr. Kaul, Mr. Hemant. I've not met them for a long time, and it was a great pleasure to see all of them. And I'm very happy that we could meet and have some discussions on various things of mutual interest. But main thing remains that life is all about continuous learning, training, and development. That's all. That's my thought.
Is there any you would like to add and leave us with?
Age is a number. Don't look at it, just move forward.
Thank you, sir. What a one-liner. What a one-liner. I think we are going to rampantly use it everywhere in different platforms we are part of. I think we're going to use it liberally everywhere. So thank you, sir. I would now thank you, everyone, sir. I mean, each one of you for sparing time and making this event very special. And now to tell you a little more about IMA, and of course, thank everybody. I from